Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. Vidya Science Videos. In today's video, I'll be discussing about manipulation of glycosylation by coronavirus. Before that, let's refresh our knowledge on basics of glycosylation. It is a form of post-translational modification of proteins. Let me explain to you what is post-translational modification. We know that proteins are synthesized by our cells. So, protein synthesis takes place in two stages. One is transcription, another one is translation. What happens during transcription? The genetic instructions in the DNA is transferred to mRNA in the nucleus. This transcription is again three-step process where it includes initiation, elongation and termination. We'll not go into the details of it. So, once after the mRNA is processed, it carries the instructions to a ribosome which is there in the cytoplasm. And the ribosomes consists of rRNA and proteins where translation process takes place. During translation process, instructions in mRNA are read and transfer RNA brings the correct sequence of amino acids to the ribosomes. Now this ribosomal RNA is responsible to build the bond between amino acids. The bond between two amino acids is called as peptide bond and the chain of amino acids that are linked together is called as polypeptide. So now ribosomes have translated mRNA into polypeptide chains. These polypeptide chains undergo post-translational modification to form the mature protein, which is more stable. And it also plays a major role in biochemical regulatory mechanisms. And it is also important for protein targeting, that is protein localization and protein signaling. There are different types of post-translational modifications and one of them is glycosylation, where sugar moieties are attached to protein molecule. Likewise, other post-translational modifications include phosphorylation, where phosphate group is attached to the amino acid. And then there is acylation, alkylation, hydroxylation, which are the different types of post-translational modification. For now, let's concentrate on glycosylation, which is affected during COVID infection. As I already told you, glycosylation is a type of post-translational modification where sugar moieties get attached to protein molecules to form glycoproteins. And approximately half of all proteins typically expressed in a cell undergo this modification. These glycoproteins have many physiological functions. Some of the examples of glycoproteins are collagen, mucins, transferrin, ceruloplasmin, antibodies, hormones such as follicle-stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, thyroid-stimulating hormone, erythropoietin, and they also function as enzymes like alkaline phosphatase. And various proteins that are involved in cell-to-cell interactions are mostly glycoproteins. They also function as protein receptors, especially which are involved in hormone and drug action. They also act as regulatory proteins for growth and development. And certain surface protein present on the membranes of platelets are involved in thrombosis. What I told you is just some of the functions of glycoproteins. There are a lot more to it. By this, we understand that glycosylation is very essential process, isn't it? So there are different types of glycosylation based on the site where glycans are attached to the protein molecule. First one is N-linked glycosylation, where the glycan is attached to a nitrogen atom of asparagine or arginine residue of protein. Second one is O-linked glycosylation, where glycans bind to the hydroxyl group of serine or threonine on the protein. N-linked and O-linked glycosylation are the most common forms of glycosylation. And other forms include P-glycosylation, where glycan is attached to the phosphorus on a phosphoserine. C-glycosylation is where glycan is attached to the carbon molecule. There is another type, that is S-glycosylation, wherein beta-N-acetyl glucosamine is attached to the sulfur atom of cysteine. And what you importantly need to know is that proteins are not restricted to any particular type of glycosylation. A single protein can get glycosylated at multiple sites with different glycosidic linkages. Glycosylation depends mainly on three factors. One is enzyme availability, second one is amino acid sequence, and the third one is protein conformation. Remember I told you major forms of glycosylation is N-glycosylation and O-glycosylation. N-glycosylation begins in the endoplasmic reticulum, whereas O-linked glycosylation occurs in the Golgi apparatus. Let us now see how N-glycosylation takes place. On the endoplasmic reticulum membrane, there's this compound called as dolicol phosphate, which is basically a long-chain alcohol. This dolicol serves as a temporary anchor for the oligosaccharide. I want you all to concentrate on the sequence in the figures so that you understand the mechanism properly. What's happening in the first step? There's dolicol diphosphate on the endoplasmic reticulum membrane, to which two molecules of N-acetyl glucosamine are attached. To that, 5 mannose residues are attached. So, all of these additions to the oligosaccharide is taking place in the cytoplasm. As you see in the third step, this dolicol which is attached to the oligosaccharide flips inwards to the endoplasmic reticulum lumen. And what you are seeing in 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th steps are addition of 4 more mannose residues and 3 more glucose residues. By this, the chain is complete. Now, this oligosaccharide is ready to be transferred onto the protein molecule, which is mediated by oligosaccharide transferase enzyme. Since this oligosaccharide is attached to a nitrogen of an asparagine residue of a protein, this is called N-glycosylation. Now, this N-linked oligosaccharide undergoes further processing. And this process begins with the removal of 2 glucose residues by enzyme glucosidase. So, out of 3 glucose residues, 2 are removed. 1 glucose residue is still hanging there because it acts as a docking site for calnexin or calreticulin. Basically, by holding on to glycoprotein, calnexin or calreticulin is giving some extra time for protein to fold itself and rearrange. After the protein folding is done, another glucose molecule also is removed. So technically, calnexin or calreticulin are proteins that have slow glucosidase activity, which are also associated with protein disulfide isomerase-like activity. If in case protein folding is incomplete, then it undergoes same cycle to complete the folding. If the protein folding is complete and correct, then it will be recognized by endoplasmic reticulum alpha 1 and 2 mannosidase enzyme. This mannosidase enzyme removes 1 residue of mannose. By this, glycosylation modifications in the endoplasmic reticulum is completed. Now, these glycoproteins move towards Golgi apparatus by means of vesicular transport. In the Golgi apparatus, this oligosaccharide again undergoes remodeling. As you already know, Golgi apparatus has 3 compartments. The first compartment is cis compartment, which is nearest to the endoplasmic reticulum. And the second one is medial compartment, and the third one is trans compartment, which is far from the endoplasmic reticulum. The remodeling of oligosaccharides takes place in all these 3 compartments. Firstly, it enters cis Golgi, where Golgi specific mannosidase enzyme 1 helps in the removal of many mannose residues. And then they move to the medial Golgi, where few more mannose residues are removed and new N-acetyl glucosamine residues are added with the help of N-acetyl glucosamine transferase enzyme. Now, with this modification, it moves towards trans Golgi compartment, where galactose, sialic acid and N-acetyl muramic acid residues are added. With this, N-linked glycosylation is over. And now the glycoproteins are either ready to be secreted or ready to be transported to the sites of its action. This N-linked oligosaccharide has 2 main physiological functions. It acts as the base for further glycosylation. And the second function is, it is used as a marker for error checking of protein folding by the calnexin and calreticulin system. So now let's talk about O-linked protein glycosylation. We saw that N-linked protein glycosylation takes place in endoplasmic reticulum as well as in the Golgi body. But O-linked protein glycosylation takes place entirely in the Golgi body. After the process of N-glycosylation and folding of the protein in the endoplasmic reticulum, it enters cis Golgi compartment through vesicular transport. In the cis Golgi compartment, the sugar molecule gets attached to oxygen atom of serine or threonine. Initially, N-acetyl galactosamine attaches to hydroxyl group of a serine or threonine. That is with the help of an enzyme called N-acetyl galactosamine transferase. which is Golgi-specific enzyme. This structure further gets extended with the addition of galactose and N-acetyl glucosamine, which can further get decorated with sialic acid and fucose. When you compare N-linked and O-linked glycans, O-linked glycans have lesser branching than N-linked glycans. The most common O-linked glycans are the mucin type glycans, which contains an initial residue as N-acetyl galactosamine. So there are around 8 mucin type co-structures. O-linked glycoproteins have wide range of physiological functions. Mucins, erythropoietin, tissue factors, antibodies are the few examples of O-linked glycoproteins. So now we know what is glycosylation, what are the types of glycosylation. Also we have learned quite in detail about N-glycosylation and O-glycosylation. With this understanding of glycosylation process, it will now be easy to understand how coronavirus affects glycosylation. We know that coronaviruses are enveloped RNA viruses. So we have already seen how coronavirus enters the host cell. So after entering the host cell, the envelope gets uncoated and there is release of this positive sense single strand RNA into the cytoplasm. And this genomic RNA is around 30,000 nucleotide long. Now the host machineries come into action. That is, the host ribosomes translate this RNA into polyproteins. And the polyproteins are polyprotein 1A and polyprotein 1AB. These polyproteins undergo proteolysis to form smaller proteins. These smaller proteins will be involved in replication as well as transcription process. So it's called as replication transcription complex. Now this complex combines with a positive sense RNA which replicates into negative sense RNA strand. This negative sense RNA strand is used to make more positive sense RNA strands. And also more importantly, these negative sense RNA strands are used to make many subgenomic mRNAs, which are further translated into many different viral proteins. And these viral proteins undergo N-linked glycosylation at endoplasmic reticulum and O-linked glycosylation at Golgi apparatus. So the transmembrane structural proteins, that is spike protein, envelope protein and membrane protein, and non-structural proteins like NSP3 and NSP4 and accessory proteins are modified by glycosylation. Among all these proteins, the most important protein that is responsible for viral invasion is the spike protein. So the glycosylation of S protein determines the capacity of virus to invade the host cell, and this protein has around 22 potentially N-linked glycosylation motifs in each promoter. The N-glycons and the S protein play a major role in proper protein folding and protein priming by the host proteases. And most importantly, this N-glycosylation of viral proteins helps the virus to escape the innate and adaptive immune responses of their host. It is called as the glycan shielding, where glycoproteins are shielding the amino acid residues of viral epitopes and it is protecting the virus from antibody recognition. So once the N-glycosylation process is over in the endoplasmic reticulum, these proteins leave the endoplasmic reticulum to enter the Golgi body. And before entering the Golgi body, this spike protein, envelope protein and membrane proteins combine with the nucleocapsid and positive sense single strand RNA. In Golgi, few proteins undergo O-glycosylation. And once the glycosylation process is over, it gets assembled and packed inside the Golgi vesicle as a mature virion. Now this vesicle moves towards the cell membrane where the virus is released through the process of exocytosis. Now this virus goes and infects other cells. I hope now you have understood how coronavirus hijacks host cell glycosylation process to produce viral glycoprotein, which results in increase of replication and increased infectivity of the virus. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.